اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما تعلمنا وزدنا بفضلك علما وتعليما إنك على كل شيء قدير. We did this. Okay, let's just start from here. والتمييز بسم الله والتمييز. Would anybody like to read?
Um, could I, if that's okay?
بسم الله. Go ahead شيخ رواد. بسم الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال المصنف رحمه الله: والتمييز فلا تصح أو يصح وضوء غير المميز كطفل ومجنون لذلك،
Mm-hmm.
وعدم
Well, why
المنافي.
why is that the
or
case? Why is it not valid for somebody who's insane, like a child or somebody who is insane? Why is it not valid for them to make
because they're not mukallaf.
okay, but a child that is mumayyiz is not mukallaf. So you could have a valid wudu and a valid prayer even if you're not mukallaf.
Hmm, I'm not sure.
Okay, can they so if you're not sane, can you have a niyyah?
No.
No. So there we go, right? So there's no niyyah, right? So the issue with the الطفل المميز is that he's غير مكلف شرعا لا عادة, right? So عقلا and عادة يتصور تكليفه, right? شرعا لا يتصور تكليفه أو ولا يوجد تكليفه, right? So somebody, if you think about, is it possible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make, like, let's say a child who is not really there, okay? The kid is not able to sit still. The kid is not able to focus, is not able to think in the way that we think, okay? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could obviously make them responsible and punish them. Allah can do whatever He wants, but they're not actually responsible, right? Because that's not possible. Like they're not actually doing anything because they're not sane, right? So as for a child who is mumayyiz, عقلا يتصور تكليفهم, right? Why could Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could make a child who understands right from wrong, who understands, okay, what is this? Okay, this is a this is that, what's going on? They have that ability to focus and understand what's going on. Allah could make them more responsible, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasn't, right? They're just in that training zone, right? Okay, وعدم منافي من نحو تفضل. تفضل مرابط.
So sorry, I forgot.
Yeah.
Uh, وعدم المنافي من نحو حيض ومس
وعدم
ذكر حال الوضوء.
منافي, right? Munafi, something that goes against it, right? Mhm. من نحو حيض
um,
mhm.
من نحو حيض ومس ذكر حال الوضوء، لأنه إذا طرأ عليه أبطله، فلا يصح مع وجوده، فتعبيري بذلك أعم من اقتصاره على عدم الحيض والنفاس.
Mhm. Right? So hayd and nifas, what about breaking wudu? What about, so if it tara alayhi, if it came after, if it occurred afterwards, it would, if it occurred, if it happened to wudu, you had wudu and then you pass wind, for example, that would break the wudu. So therefore, it happening at the same time also breaks wudu. Okay, Bismillah wa adam, Bismillah.
وعدم الحائل بين الماء والمغسول أو الممسوح كشمع وعين جبر، آه،
حبر. Mhm.
أو حبر، وحناء،
Mhm.
بخلاف أثرهما.
Mhm. ودخول.
ودخول الوقت في وضوء دائم الحدث
Mhm.
كمستحاضة، فلو توضأ قبل دخوله لم يصح، لأنه طهارة ضرورة، ولا ضرورة قبل الوقت.
And we mentioned here, what did we mention last week about Al-Amal Ahmadina and the Maliki school and Taqleed? Who knows what we mentioned last week? We looked here about how the fuqaha of Medina, their fatwa is the same thing that in tayammum and salas al-bawl and these scenarios that you can't make that it's taharat darura and you can't make tayammum or wudu for somebody who is continually breaking wudu before the time that we mentioned last week. You can tell us. When we say Imam Shafi is a mujtahid mutlaq, is that 100% correct to say that he's a mujtahid?
Is this the
Yes.
discussion we had where we said that he bases a lot of his rulings off of Imam Malik and then he derives his point further from there?
Good. So, is it true to say to say that any mujtahid is really a 100% independent thinker? The answer is no. Right?
Mhm.
Right. So there's a fine line between ta'athur, being affected by somebody, and taqlid, blindly following them. Right. And there's it's not a cut and dry line. Is Imam Malik 100% free thinking and thinking independently? No, the answer is no. Right. And so as time progresses, the pure ijtihad decreases and taqlid increases, but it never reaches pure taqlid, and it's never really a stage of pure ijtihad when apart from let's say with somebody like Sayyidina Umar or something like that. Okie dokie. ودخول وقتي في وضوء دائم الحدث ده اوكي. وغيرها من زيادته كمعرفة كيفية الوضوء للداء وكذا نظيره في الصلاة ودوام النية فلو قطعها في أثناء الوضوء احتاج في بقية الأعضاء إلى نية جديدة. Right, so the issue is the default is إنما الأعمال بالنيات, you have to have a niyyah throughout. So we say that's too difficult. And مشقة تجلب التيسير is too difficult to have niyyah throughout the whole wudu. So we're going to say fine. As long as there's no sarif, as long as there's no alternative action, you can just have a niyyah at the beginning. If you start doing something else, then you have to renew your فلو قطعها في أثناء الوضوء يحتاج إلى بقية الأعضاء إلى نية جديدة. You have to restart your niyyah, right? Otherwise it would not count. Okay, are we supposed to go now on to the matan?
Yes.
Okie dokie. Long time, subhanAllah. Um,
Sheikh, I do have a question about
go
this.
ahead.
So we're reading through al-Lubab itself, but then the Hashia is on Tahrir
تنقيح
Tanqih
al-Lubab.
al-Lubab.
Correct.
So and looking at the text of the Tahrir is like vastly different from al-Lubab. So why are we reading al-Lubab and not Tahrir?
It's not vastly different. It's just quite different. So there's certain things. So it's so there's two reasons. Number one, we want to see the old and the new. It's nice to see the old. There's different things you see, right? So for example, the fact that he distinguish the way that he organizes it, the difference is it's useful. Later on, we're going to see that he's going to mention lots of ikhtilafat as well. So he's going to mention the qadim and the jadid and the this and the that, right? So it's nice to see those things, and then because it's similar enough, it's useful. Does that make sense? So it's
Yes.
not like word by word though, but it's similar enough. Okay. So we did this. وشرعة الوضوء وهو شرط واحد أن لا يكون الماء right. So we tweaked that a lot. Bismillah. Okay. Ammar, you want to read?
Sure, inshallah. Uh, sorry, one second. Okay. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال المصنف رحمه الله تعالى ونفعنا الله بعلمه وعلمكم آمين. باب ما ينقض الوضوء وهو 9 أشياء. أحدها ما يخرج من أحد السبيلين، والثاني أن ينسد السبيل ويخرج
ينسد right. ينفعل أن ينسد السبيل.
أن ينسد السبيل ويخرج الحدث من سبيل آخر.
And now there's conditions here. He's not going to mention here. He says ولم يحدد المصنف رحمه الله موضع السبيل الآخر وذكروا له 4 صور أن ينسد المخرج المعتاد, so nothing comes out of the normal exit, وينفتح مخرج تحت المعدة beneath your stomach, فينتقد الوضوء بالخارج منه قولا واحدا. So nothing comes out of your normal passage, but something comes out from beneath your stomach. Okay, that's number one. Number two, ينسد المعتاد وينفتح فوق المعدة, ففيه قولان أصحهما لا ينتقض. Right. وقال النووي وقطع المحامل بالانتقاد وهو ضعيف. Right. So this is محامل here. Right. He says, oh, it definitely breaks wudu, and that's wrong. Right. The relied upon position is if that. So that means you had feces, may Allah protect us all, and you had a bag, for example, um, above your stomach. Right. It was collecting there. Okay. So in which case and that's where the feces came out of, or the urine came out of. Then, and nothing comes out of your actual private parts, then wudu is not broken. Right. ولا ينسد المعتاد وينفتح تحت المعدة, ففيه خلاف الصحيح أنه لا ينقض. Right. Because why? It's not normal anymore. لا ينسد right. لا ينسد المعتاد وينفتح فوق المعدة, ففيه طريقان, الأصح عند الجمهور أنه لا ينقض. So basically, the condition is nothing is coming out of your actual private parts, and the place where it comes out is beneath your stomach. Right? That's the condition basically. الثالث.
الثالث ما يغلب على العقل إلا النوم قاعدا
إلا
آه،
النوم.
إلا النوم قاعدا عفوا مستويا.
مهم.
الرابع مس فرج الآدمي بباطن الكف من نفسه أو من غيره.
مهم.
والخامس ملامسة بدن الرجل بدن ملامسة
مهم.
بدن الرجل بدن المرأة ولا حائل بينهما إلا الشعر.
ولا حائل. مهم.
ولا حائل بينهما إلا الشعر.
مهم. إلا الشعر إلا
إلا الشعر
الشعر.
والظفر والسن.
مهم.
وفي مس ذوات المحارم والصغائر قولان.
مهم. مهم.
والسادس
وفي
انقطاع
ذات.
الحدث.
So what does this mean? وفي مس ذوات المحارم والصغار قولان. What does that mean?
If the contact is with someone that's not
Good. Just yeah. Sorry. Go on. Give 1 second, guys. Sorry. Okay. So go ahead. What does that mean?
it's with someone who's not of the age where they're like
Mhm.
generally considered.
So that means you touch a 3-year-old girl, قولان, right? And what about the ذوات المحارم? What does that mean?
It means direct, like, or female blood relatives,
So you're
or I
teaching
guess
touching your
male.
daughter, touching your sister, touching your mom, your aunt, your niece, قولان, right? So he just mentions قولان, right? So he says here he says أصحهما لا ينقض وضوءه, right? Here he says الأصح, right? So he mentions a tahdhib. I'm not sure why he's mentioning. I guess maybe the interesting discussion here, but I'm not sure again why he mentioned the غاية القصوى, right? I don't know quite why he's mentioning these things. غاية القصوى is بيضاوي. But anyway, the tahqiq, that's by Imam Nawawi, right? So it's a bit odd. Not sure why he's mentioned, and I don't know why he mentions al-asah, right? Because I don't think it's an issue of al-sah. I think it's as-sahih, right? So he says, وَفِي الْمَسِ الذَّوَاتِ الْمَحَارِمِ وَالصِّغَارِ قَوْلَانِ. I don't think it's an issue of if it's as-sah. I think it's as-sahih, right? So the other position is ضعيف جدا, right? That, wallahu alam, but maybe somebody could check. Wallahu alam.
Wait, so would this be an example like where he's using the word qawl, but it's not actually a qawl of Imam Shafi'i, it's a wajh of the ashab?
Uh, Correct. He should say wajhan. Yep. So I don't think he's going to make a distinction. So it's actually wajhan.
Okay.
I don't think he's going to make a distinction. I think he may do sometimes, but he's not. It's not going to be very clear. Yeah.
Is that normal for the like more like mutaqad
Yes.
pre-Nawawi
The
Shafi'i?
mutaqaddimin, and if I can remember correctly, I think even Imam Rafi will do that as well.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm not sure 100%. What I recall from the Wasit of Imam Ghazali is that he'll make a distinction. He'll be saying qawlan and then say, no, I don't mean qawlan, I mean wajhan. Sorry, my apologies. Okay. Okay. Um, Okay, so we were mentioning about the wajhan and the qawlan. So from what I remember from the wasit is he does make a distinction, and he'd even say things like, "Oh, perhaps it's actually wajhan, not qawlan," or something like that. But anyway, it's a whole issue that needed being tidy up, and that's one of the things that Imam Nawawi did, right? Is to just clarify what are we actually saying here, right? Is it an issue of jadid and qadim? Is it between Imam Shafi'i and himself, or is it the different awjuh of the in the madhab? Wallahu a'lam. And one of the things as well is some Orientalists have critiqued the They said, the is clearly not Imam Shafi's position book because it mentions two positions. There's two positions on this, right? When in reality, that's what Imam Shafi did. He mentioned two positions, right? Wallahu a'lam. So anyway, so what's the issue here? The issue is what is with the sigar and the wat al maharim is the illah in the Shafi school is madhinnat al-shahwa, the possibility of shahwa. So where is the madhinnat al-shahwa with a baby, with a 3-year-old, right? There's no, right? There's no madhinnat of shahwa. Illa, except somebody who is a pedophile. And we say, okay, that's different. Homosexual, that's different, right? Someone's attracted to animals is different, but that's not a nadir la hukma lahu. We're talking about the normal, right? The ada is, and so they would say there's no the illah is not shahwa, nor is it that it's a different gender. It's madinat shahwa, the possibility of shahwa. So it's not normal. So that is right mafquda in the wat al maharim and the sigar, right? So that's a qawl da'if جدا. والله أعلم. Okay. السادس.
السادس انقطاع الحدث الدائم إلا في الصلاة.
Mhm. So
So
انقطاع
إلا
الحدث
في
الدائم.
الصلاة and like immediately between the wudu and the salah as well.
Yeah, so you were praying, and when you started praying, suddenly, miraculously, you stopped being incontinent. Stopped. So if you stop being incontinent, then your fake wudu that you made while being incontinent doesn't count anymore. Okay, what if I'm in prayer? Then we say, just like in tayammum, if you make tayammum, right, and you're praying, and then the truck comes with the water, you don't stop the prayer, right? Because يغتفر في الدوام ما لا يغتفر في ابتداء. So the same discussion here. You before you started the prayer, your incontinence stopped. Okay, once you start the prayer, it doesn't matter. Right? So انقطاع الحدث الدائم breaks wudu إلا في الصلاة. Right? So he's organizing in a very, very different way. He has, we have traditionally four things that break wudu. He's on number six now. Right? Bismillah. Go ahead. والسابع.
والسابع بطلان حكم المسح على الخفين، وفيه قول آخر
Mm-hmm. And
أنه أنه يقتصر على غسل الرجلين.
good, you can say يقتصر or so يقتصر is that washing the feet is sufficient, or يقتصر, he suffices himself with washing the 2 feet. Right? So this position here, وهو القول الشافعي في الجديد. So this is an issue of قديم and جديد. He doesn't mention it here. Right? He doesn't mention قديم and جديد. So the قديم is based on that there's muwala. Right? Muwala is a shart on the qadim. Right? So in the qadim, you broke up your wudu, that doesn't count. So similarly, you washed your face, you washed your arm, you wiped your head. 10 minutes later, the 12 the 2 hour um the 24 hours ended, or you took your khufs off. Can you just wash your feet? Well, no, because there's a gap on the qadim. But the jadid is, it doesn't matter if there's a gap. Right? So the jadid is وفيه قول آخر وهو الصحيح وهو الصحيح الجديد الصحيح, that no, you can just wash your feet. That's totally fine. الثامن.
والثامن بطلان حكم المسح على الجبائر.
Same discussion, right? التاسع.
والتاسع بطلان التيمم إذا جمع بينه وبين الماء، وفيهما قول آخر.
So بطلان إذا جمع بينه وبين الماء. So what if you wudu, so you did a tayammum and you used water as best you could, you made tayammum as best you can, and then that's no longer valid, in which case it doesn't count, right? So these are kind of other discussions. So he's just kind of like adding different discussions in, but essentially we have the four, right? The four things. Khair. So you can see now there's quite a lot of difference, right, between what he said and how we're going to organize it now. Khair. Let's go on to the hadath then. Okay, Bismillah, go ahead.
باب الأحداث هي جمع حدث، والمراد به عند الإطلاق كما هنا الأصغر غالبا، وهو لغة الشيء الحادث.
So something happening,
آه،
the thing that happens, right? That's what we mean.
والشرعا يطلق على أمر اعتباري يقوم بالأعضاء يمنع من صحة الصلاة حيث لا مرخص.
So it's not a real thing, but it's amr i'tibari, a concept, right? So it's a concept that dwells and exists in or through the limbs, and it prevents the validity of the prayer unless there is haythu la murakhis, unless there's some kind of excuse, right? And so it says, for example, like the tayammum and the likes, okay? حيث لا مرخص قوله وعلى الأسباب, right? حدث means the thing and also means the means of it. وعلى الأسباب التي
وعلى الأسباب التي ينتهي بها الطهر، وعلى المانع المترتب على ذلك.
So we use it for various different things. Hadath means the fact that you can't do something, the reasons that cause those things, they call that all ahadath, right? وَالْمُرَادُهَا الثاني. So what's the thani? Meaning the causes that mean that you're no longer pure. وتعبير الأصل بأسباب الحدث يقتضي.
وتعبير الأصل بأسباب الحدث يقتضي تفسير الحدث بغير الثاني، إلا أن تجعل الإضافة بيانية.
So the reasons of not having wudu anymore. Right, so that doesn't make any sense. How can you be the reasons of the reasons? What it means is the reasons that are the reasons, right? right? The sledgehammer of his fist struck my face, i.e., the sledgehammer that was his fist. So it doesn't mean the sledgehammer that belongs to his, right? The sledgehammer of it, right? So that's min bayaniya when you do idafa of one thing to the other when the thing that's being mudaf ilay is the first thing, right? The I don't know. There's many examples of that in English and Arabic. I can't think of another one, but that's what I mean. So the reasons that are the reasons of hadith, right? إلا أن تجعل الإضافة أو تجعل الإضافة بيانية. Right? بيانية meaning that is this thing. Okay. Okay. وهي أربعة. Where do we get to? هي أربعة. Where's the word أشياء?
I just have أربعة.
وهي أربعة. That's it, right? لآية أو جاء أحدكم منكم من أو جاء أحد منكم من الغائط أو right ولقيام hmm? No, I've skipped. Where are we?
I think we may have skipped, I think from that part on the bottom page of the page. Uh, it says khuruj. I think it.
خروج غير منيه.
هي أربعة خروج غير منيه.
Mhm.
الموجب للغسل أو المتوضي الحي الواضح
Mhm.
عينا كان أو ريحا طاهرا أو نجسا جافا أو رطبا معتادا كبول أو نادرا كدم انفصل أو
Mhm.
لا من الفرج
أولى
دبرا
right
كان
so
أو قبلا.
let's take it apart right so خروج غير منيه anything coming out of the private parts that is not semen right or female sexual fluid okay الموجب which causes ghusl, right? So and the fact that it causes ghusl means it doesn't cause wudu, breaks wudu, right? أي المتوضئ الحي الواضح عينا كان أو ريحا, whether the thing coming out of the private parts is a substance or is it a smell. So notice how we do not consider the smell to be a substance. So well, it is a substance, is it not? Like there's something there, right? But we don't consider it to be substance. Right? So, okay. طاهرا أو نجسا, whether it's pure or not. جافا أو رطبا, whether it's right, رطب, like on the pattern فعل. رطب. رطبا, so dry or moist. Normal or not normal, right? So here, the ikhtiyar of Ibn Mundhir and the position of the Malikis is no, nadir, and it doesn't, something that's nadir is not the same thing, right? So something that's nadir does not break the wudu. So for the Malikis and Ibn Mundhir, somebody who is salis al-bawl is not breaking wudu. The wudu is not being broken because it's not normal. Okay. من فرج دبرا كان أو قبلا أو من ثقب. The word is, how do you have it? ثقب.
Yeah,
You have
I'm
ثقب.
not
Yeah.
sure though.
Is that what you all have?
I don't
ثقب.
have any harakat on it.
Yeah, neither do I.
Okay. So I usually have the word ثقبة. So I'm not sure. I believe it's ثقب. Okay. A hole تحت معدة والفرج منسد. Right. So he says hmm, okay, so that was a condition, right? We mentioned that it has to come from out from a hole on the, so it comes out something that is beneath the stomach and the private parts are blocked. لآية. Mhm.
آه، لآية أو جاء أحدكم من الغائط.
Right, so notice
آم،
that's a إضافة بيانية. The ayah
مم.
of the ayah that is. Does that make sense? The ayah of meaning the ayah that is. So that's إضافة بيانية, right? Um, okay. By reason of his
والقيام
sickness,
oh
right?
sorry.
I.e., by reason of his sickness, i.e., the reason that was his sickness. Okay. أو جاء أحدكم من الغائط. Okay. ولقيام الثقب المذكور مقام المنسد because it's standing in its stead. Okay. والغائط, go ahead.
والغائط آم، المكان المطمئن من
Mhm.
الأرض
Mhm.
تقضى فيه الحاجة،
Mhm.
ثم باسمه الخارج للمجاورة.
مجاورة because it's related to it. It's next to it. Mhm. وخرج بالثقب المذكور خروج شيء من ثقب فوق المعدة أو فيها أو محاذيها is parallel to it أو مع انسداد الفرج ولو مع انسداد, so it comes from above the stomach or parallel to the stomach even if the private parts are blocked. أو تحتها مع انفتاحه فلا نقط به لأنه في الأخيرة لا ضرورة إلى مخرجه. Right. It's like vomiting, basically. So we know vomiting doesn't break the wudu. We know so basically if it's from the stomach or above, then we count it as vomiting, even if it was feces. Right? It's analogous to vomiting. Otherwise, it's analogous to defecating or urinating. May Allah protect us all. So here's a question: is it better to be in a situation where like you can go to the bathroom or you can't go to the bathroom? What's a better situation?
You can.
It's better to be in that situation.
Do you mean can as in or can't as in ability or like
Yeah, like
choosing
is
not
it, is
to?
it better to be in a situation where you physically can't go to the bathroom and you have to have it like
No.
surgically taken out? Is that better or is
No, it's worse.
it's worse to be in that situation? Okay, what do you think, Ammar Morabit?
Being able to would be better than being incapable of going to the bathroom.
Okay, so ability is better than inability.
Yes.
Wealth is better than
But
poverty.
maybe it depends.
Okay, it depends on what.
Like if the person is able to go to the bathroom, but it causes them immense pain, then in that case, maybe it would be better if they didn't have like the ability to
Okay, so
go.
is pain good or is pain bad?
It's bad.
Okay. Any other suggestions, Ammar?
But that incapability would also
Depends
lead
what
to,
kind of pain. Like the jaw from fasting is, I guess, technically pain, but that's good.
Exactly.
Uh,
So you cause yourself pain. It's not good, right? So in reality, the issue is where your heart is, right? So imagine, for example, imagine this, like you are totally healthy, okay? You are 100% healthy, but every single time you go to the bathroom, you're like, Ya Allah, please help me go to the bathroom. And like it's like a really like a heart, like almost like in tears, like Ya Allah, please, I really cannot do this. Every single time you move one foot before the other, right? You're like, Ya Allah, please help me move my foot. Alhamdulillah, thank you. So if you are totally like drowned in your neediness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then it's better to be healthy, right? It's better to be healthy, wealthy, and capable, right? But if you're not like that, it's way better to be in a situation of need. Like it's way better. Like imagine like just the like the ability, like if it took you like 1 hour, right, to get to the bathroom, right? So for you to get out of your room to get to the bathroom takes an hour, and it's very, very difficult for things to come out, and it's like hit and miss, you know, and so like you're like, oh Allah, please help me. You're in a far better situation than the person who's like, yeah, whatever, like I just got up, went to the bathroom, like, move on, get on with life. So if you're connected to Allah, that's the good situation. So if you're in a good situation, quote, quote, good situation, health, wealth, capable, whatever, but you're not connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're in a very, very difficult, you're in a very, very bad situation, right? Whereas if you like continue like, Ya Allah, please help me, I really need your help, then it's much better. That's much better. It's much better to be in a bad situation. Like, you know, all of us have Western passports. It's like it's easy. And then you're like, no, I have my passport is from Mozambique, right? And I'm stuck in I have a friend, for example, he's been stuck in Jordan for the last like 20 years because his passport expired and they have no embassy for they have no embassy for his for his country in Jordan. So he's in a situation where it's like really difficult. Like if the police catch him, it's gonna be a big mess. So it's like day in, day out, it's like, Ya Allah, please help me. Ya Allah, please help me. Ya Allah, please help me. Right? So is he better off? It all depends where. So if you're with Allah in a difficulty, it's much better to be with Allah in a difficulty than to be without Allah in an ease. Right? And so, you just like see the situations, a simple thing like where are you going to stay tonight? Right? Like that was my situation almost 6 months ago. I was like, I don't know where I'm going to live. Like, I don't know where I don't know where it's like, wow, this is really hard. Right? And like I can remember like my sujood was like way better. So it's better like not knowing where you're gonna stay. Like I don't know where I'm gonna stay. Like I keep getting refused, but nobody's letting me stay at their house. I want to stay at someone's house. I want to rent a place. I have the money. Please accept it. And they won't. And they were just like, no, 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 no. And like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? I have nowhere to stay. Right? Like so being in a situation that's really difficult, right, and being with Allah is much, much better than being in a situation where you are you know? Like, oh yeah, this is easy. Just go in the bathroom. Like, why would I make dua if I go to the bathroom? Why would I make dua to like raise my hand? Why would I make dua, for example? Oh, it's easy to memorize, right? It's just so easy. It's like takes like 2 minutes to memorize a whole page easily, right? This is easy. And you're not thinking, Ya Allah, please help me, right? So for many people, it's way better to be in a situation of need than it is to be in a situation of I'm capable, I'm healthy, wealthy, and everything, and I've got it all down, right? For most people, 90% of people. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. خير تقضى في الحاجة سمي بسنددة مجاورة وخرج بالثقب المذكور خروج شيء من ثقب we mentioned that إلى مخرج فيما عدا وإلى مخرجه فيما عداها وفيما عداها بالقيء أشبه it's more similar to vomiting right? إذ ما تحيله الطبيعة تلقيه إلى أسفل right that which is changed naturally by nature is thrown to below وهذا في الانسداد العارض right this is assuming that it is a non-normal block وأما الخلقي right a normal block فينتقض معه الخارج من الثقب مطلقا right so if you don't have private parts to begin with right it's not just something that just happened now but you don't have private parts to begin with then whatever however it comes out that's what that is considered the norm والمنسد حينئذ كعضو زائد right so then in which case that which is blocked is like an extra limb إذ لا وضوء بمسه ولا غسل بإيلاجه ولا بالإيلاج فيه قاله الماوردي والمعدة مستقر الطعام من المكان وال what's the word here
منخسف.
والمنخسف تحت الصدر إلى السرة it says what is that it is the place where the food and the منخسف the kind of gap I guess the area that goes in beneath the chest until the belly button والمراد بها هنا السرة the belly button itself أما وأما
I think it's منيه.
وأما
منيه الموجب.
منيه. Okay, right. So he mentions anyway that that is the surah, belly button. أي عند الفقهاء فهو مجاز, right? So it means the belly button. That's how we judge it basically, the belly button itself. Right. So when you say al-ma'ida, we mean the belly button. ونمر بها هنا السرة. وأما منيه الموجب للغسل, right? This lam is lam التقوية, right? أوجب هذا أوجب هذا. This has brought about this. This has dictated this. This has necessitated this. You don't say هذا أوجب لهذا. So why is there a lam here? There's a lam because al-mujib is an ism fa'il, and ism fa'il does not have the same strength of amal as a verb. So we throw in al-mujib li, right? You could say al-mujib al-ghusla, why not? You don't have to say it, but we added in for clarity. Wal-mujib lil-ghusli فلا نقض به كأن أمنى بمجرد نظره لأنه also right. So for example, somebody did not break the wudu and they just ejaculated for some reason, for example. لأنه أوجب أعظم أمرين بخصوصه فلا يوجب أدونهما بعمومه. Right. So this is a قاعدة فقهية. Something that brings about the greater of two matters by virtue of its specificity does not bring about the lesser of the two things by virtue of its generality, right? So you did something that calls for capital punishment, that doesn't also bring about something that's less than that, right? Because it caused for the greater of the two situations, the lesser of the two situations is not also included. Right? So it says وهو الغسل بخصوص كونه منيا فلا يوجب أدونهما وهو الوضوء بعمومه أي بعموم كونه خارجا. Right. So yes, did semen come out of your private parts? Yes. Well, didn't you say anything that comes out of private parts breaks wudu? So yeah, but because it causes for ghusl, it doesn't break wudu. Right. فالمني له جهتان. Right. Okay. So for example, if you commit zina after being muhsan, do you get stoned to death and banished for a year? And no, you don't. You just one of them, right? It's like because it's the greater of the two things, you don't get the lesser. خير. ودخول غير مني مذكور ودخل في غير منيه المذكور مني غيره ومنيه غير الموجب للغسل. So somebody else's semen coming out of you or your semen coming out of you in a way that does not cause for ghusl. بأن استدخله ثم خرج. So somebody put semen inside themselves and then took it out. Right? That doesn't cause for ghusl. فينقضان. Right? So that breaks wudu because something came out of you, but that doesn't cause for ghusl. فتعبيري بمنيه وإن احتيج لتقييده بما مر أولى من تعبيره بالمني. So I said his semen as opposed to semen. وتعبيري بفرج أولى من تعبيره بأحد السبيلين إذ للإنسان ثلاثة سبل اثنان للقبل وواحد للدبر ولأنه قد يكون له أكثر من ذلك كما لو خلق له ذكران عاملان, for example. Okay, and then it says وما غلبه على عقل بجنون أو إغماء, passing out, أو نوم or sleep أو غيرها لخبر أبي داود. Go ahead, رابط.
sorry. لخبر أبي داود وغيره العينان وكاه السه فمن نام فليتوضأ.
Mm-hmm. So it is the
آه،
weaker. It's gonna make. Is it gonna explain it here? Um, right. So basically, the eyes are the wika, the holder, the container of the behind a sah. Right. And so therefore, i.e., when you are awake, you know whether or not you pass wind. فَمَنْ نَامَ, when you fall asleep, and i.e., now you no longer have the tie over your behind, and you don't know if you pass wind or not, right? فَلْيَتَوَضَّأ, right? So basically, من باب القياس, right? And also the verse of the Quran, إِذَا قُمْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ, right? When you get up to pray, that also gives a sense that you broke your wudu, right? So it says, وغير النوم مما ذكر أبلغ منه في الذهول الذي هو مظنة الخروج، مظنة لخروج شيء من الدبر، كما أشعر بها الخبر إذ السهو الدبر ووكاؤه حفاظه عن أن. Right? It's not common to have an or min before an. Right? But you can have it. وكاؤه حفاظه عن أن يخرج منه شيء لا يشعر به، والعينان كناية عن اليقظة. So not being awake. وبغلبه على العقل أي تمييز. You don't have any more تمييز. Right? فسر بذلك لأجل أن يكون استثناء النون متصلا لا منقطعا، لأنه خلاف الأصل، بخلاف لو فسر بأنه غزيرة أي صفة قائمة بالشخص يتبعها العلم بالضروريات عند سلامة الآلات أي الحواس، خرج بذلك الصفراء الذي يجد الحلوى ال
الحلوى مرا.
الحلوى أيوة، يجد الحلوى مرا، والأحول الذي ينظر الشيء كأنه اثنان، فإن الاستثناء عليه يكون منقطعا، وكذا Yeah, so basically losing the sense to differentiate tamyiz, right? Losing the sense to differentiate. You ask this person, for example, someone is under the influence of drugs or anesthetic or alcohol, and you say, "What time is it?" and they laugh, right? They can't really function. They're not really there, right? So this person has broken their wudu. Okay. وحديث النفس, what is it? على الأقل التمييز. It says النعاس وحديث النفس. All right, I think yeah. النعاس, feeling drowsy and tired. وحديث النفس, right, falling into a kind of semi-dream. وأوائل النشوة السكر, and the beginning of the effects of alcohol. فلا نقض بها, right. ومن علامات النعاس, how do you know that you're sleepy but awake? سماع كلام الحاضرين وإن لم يفهمه, that you can hear people, can't understand it, right. So if you're not sure that you fell asleep, you're not sure you had a dream, then you're still awake. Right? إلا أي الغلبة عليه بنوم ممكن مقعده، أي إليه, his behind. من مقر, من مقره, where he's sitting. من أرض أو غيرها, whether it's the earth or a seat or anything. ولو محتببا, أي ضاما ظهره وساقيه بعمامة. Right? Even if you were sitting up, you're sitting up with your knees up, holding around, so it means your behind is still on the floor. أو غيرها. فلا نقط لخبر مسلم عن أنس رضي الله عنه كان أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ينامون ثم يصلون ولا يتوضؤون. حمل على النوم الممكن جمعا بين الأخبار ولأنه حينئذ آمن من خروج شيء من دبره ولا عبرة باحتمال خروج ريح من قبله لندرته, right, لا right, because it's نادر والنادر لا حكم له, ولكن تمكين لمن نام على قفاه ملصقا مقعده بمقره. So you're lying on your back, that you break wudu like that. Okay? So again, is this from the Quran? Is this from the Hadith? Is it because of that Hadith? Also, you're going to find, look in the Muwatta, you're going to find exact this whole fatwa from Ibn Abbas or Ibn Umar or something like that. You'll find the same thing. Right? So this in reality is a Madani idea, albeit it's different. So sometimes you're going to find Imam Shafi'i being affected by the Madanis, but not the same way that Imam Malik is. So he'll use the same Madani fatwa of Sahaba and Tabi'een, but not in the same way that Imam Malik uses them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So like the Maliki way of looking at sleep and these things is very different to the Shafi way. خير. ومسح فرج آدمي أو محل قطعه ولو صغيرا أو ميتا من نفسه أو غيره عمدا أو سهوا قبلا كان الفرج أو دبرا سليما أو أشل متصلا أو منفصلا ببطن كف أي ولو what does it say ولو something ولو شلاء even if your hand was couldn't move properly, had a problem with it. ولو لخبر من مس فرجه فليتوضأ رواه الترمذي وصححه.
ولو شاء.
ولو شلاء, if the hand was disabled. شلاء. Okay. ومن مس فرج غيره أفحش من فرجه لهتكه حرمة غيره. Okay, what does that say? So he says basically, if you touch, so the hadith says if you touch your own private parts, you have to make wudu. So now what's the analogy that we're going to do?
Can you repeat that?
So it says that the reason why your wudu is broken by touching private parts is because of the hadith. Whoever touches his private parts should make wudu. And then it says, وَمَسُّ فَرْجُ غَيْرِهِ وَمَسُّ فَرْجِ غَيْرِهِ أَفْحَشُ مِنْ فَرْجِهِ لِهَتْكِهِ حُرْمَةَ غَيْرِهِ. So what's the analogy that's being made?
It's like saying بطريق أولى.
Okay,
It's worse, so it should also necessitate نقض الوضوء.
good. So but what is the illa that is awla, that is more, when you say min bab al awla, you say, for example, it is harmful to smoke, therefore it is sinful. Okay, well, what about doing this? It's worse. So anything that's worse is min bab al awla, by a better right. Okay? So what's the analogy? What's the illa here then?
The هتك الحرمة or
So
like kind of
touching,
violating the other person's
so
rights,
you
or
violate
not rights,
yourself.
but I guess
You violate yourself by touching your own private parts.
uh no, but when it's someone else, then you would be.
Okay, so the issue then, so when you say min bab al-awla, you have to say smoking is harmful, doing cocaine is more harmful, so therefore it's even by a better right it's sinful. So when you say min bab al-awla, by a better right, the illah has to be found in both. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So is there a hetk? Are you dishonoring yourself by touching your own private parts?
No. ده مجرد المس is the عِلَّة in both. But like مس الفرج is the عِلَّة in both أحكام, and then مس فرج الغير بطريق أولى because of حتك الحرمة
Yeah, but that doesn't make
would
sense.
be
It has to be
also
it has
necessary.
to be the illah plus. It has to be the illah more so. Does that make sense? That's when you say that's when we do analogy.
Mm.
Aslan, where's the analogy? Right? And then it says, وَلِأَنَّهُ أَشْهَى. So is that the reason? Touching your private parts is because of shahwa?
No.
Exactly. So we have a bit of a problem. Right? We have a bit of a problem in that the illah is not necessarily even found in other things. So if you say, for example, so you have to come along and force an illah on it and then try and find it in something else. Right? So you have to say, oh,
Can't we just say
go ahead.
we can't just say that like the عِلَّة in the hadith, which is مس الفرج, is basically like a عِلَّة قاصرة.
Mm,
Like, do we need to put like a hikmah behind it and
Allah
say,
qasira means
or ما لا يطلع على حكمته?
yeah, so no, but there's nothing. It's fine to do that. So we know the Nas says whoever
Mm.
touches his own private parts. So the question is, if we don't know the hikmah, then we don't know the illah. If we don't know the illah, then we can't do an analogy to someone else's private parts, right? So if you come along and say, oh, touching someone else's private parts is ashha, so you say, is that the reason then? Is it
No.
shahwa? Is it madannah to shahwa? And so is that the illah? Or it says, oh, so it's because it's afhash because لهتك حرمة غيره. So is the hetk of your own hurma, right? So there's a bit of a problem there, right? It's a bit of a problem, and sometimes you could say, well, we don't really know why. So then you say, well, what if it was, you know? So if you don't really know why, then how can you do analogy? Does that make sense?
Um, isn't it valid to do like isn't it permissible to establish عِلَّة without having like knowing the reason behind it? Like
It's
يجوز
fine, but
التعليل
what
بما
is the
لا
illah
يطلع
then?
على حكمته.
So what is the illah? So the hadith says, whoever touches his private parts. So you're now going to say that illah is touching private parts. Well, okay, let's ask another question. How did you get to the point where that there's no difference between private parts and one's own private parts? How did we even get there?
Um, are you saying like why would we have to like kind of overlook the taqeed of
Yeah.
Messi, like
Why
his
is
own farj?
mhm.
Oh, would it be that like we could just say like this is Jadian al Ghalib? Like oftentimes this is what the case is going to be.
Yeah, so then
It's more
basically
likely that one
لا
would
لا
touch
مفهوم
themselves.
له لخروجه مخرج الغالب, right? There's no لا مفهوم. There's no, you can't say, well, it wasn't his private parts, it's just private parts. And you just say normally one's own private parts as opposed to something else, right? But we have a bit of a problem because we make assumptions, right? So whenever we do qiyas, we are obliged to do that, but we're making assumptions, right? Maybe that's not the case, right? Um, so you have scenarios like that, like maybe that's not the actual reason, right? So I think we mentioned before with the issue of dog filth, right? So so dog filth. So when a dog licks from a boy, you have to wash it 7 times, 1 time with earth, and then Imam Shafi says if a pig is not worse, then it's certainly no better, right? So therefore, anything but maybe there's another reason for that, you know. So maybe Maybe the issue with the dog is because it's a canine. Is it? Because it's an omni. It's not an. It's a carnivore. Right?
Sorry, because you mentioned dogs, I just wanted to ask, we wouldn't say wolves have the same hukum. Is that correct?
Exactly. So we say it's different, but why do you even say that? So you did analogy to a pig, and I'm doing analogy to a dog, to a wolf, and to a cat, and to a hyena. So I'm looking at the illa is
For the
because it's
wolf,
canine, and you're looking at it because it's something that's you can't buy.
mm, for a wolf, would we say that like we don't take qiyas al-shabah as-suwari, correct? Would we say that applies here?
We're gonna say that there's fundamentally different two different things.
Mm.
Is we're gonna say dog, right? A dog is a dog is not a dog is not a wolf, and we don't have any signs from the Sharia that a dog that a wolf is problematic. We do have signs with a pig that you can't buy it at all. You can't use it. You can't do this. You can't do that. So there's all these signs in the Sharia saying, "Hey, by the way, this is worse than a dog," right? But that might not be a sound analogy. Hence, Imam Shafi disagree. Right. So what I'm trying to say is, whenever we do analogy, we're obliged to, we don't have a choice, but B, we are kind of like, going in a direction, analyzing a certain way, but it might be totally irrelevant. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Jazakallah khair.
Right. So I'm not trying to say it's wrong. I'm just trying to say that as a process, in order to do analogy to someone else's private parts, you have to say the illah is found in this, right? So that there's some level of hetk al-hurma. Is that really? Is that the case? And the other one is, right? Um, uh, and the other one is what that it
لأنه
is
أشهى له.
ashha, right? So, wallahu a'lam. Um, so then you come along and say, well, okay, what is the reason then? So I don't know. Well, that's not very good, is it? I give you 10 years, but you got to come up with one. So you're going to come up with another one, which won't be very good either. But that's the obligation you have to do, right? If you don't really know, you have to kind of come up with some way of thinking about it, right? So, so it being not very obvious is not a proof that it's not true, right? So you still have to go with what is more likely. So if it's marginally more likely, you can still have to go it. If you've done all the research and you looked at all the evidence, you're going to either agree or disagree or whatever it is. But either way, it's not going to be a very good answer because we just simply don't know, right? But you are obliged to go as a mujtahid or a mufti. You're obliged to go with what is more likely. That's simple as that. It says, وَمَحَلُّ الْقَطْعِ وَهُوَ مِنْ زِيَادَتي وَمَحَلُّ الْقَطْعِ, right? The place where your hand was cut off. وهو من زيادتي في right. في زيادتي في معنى فرج لأنه أصله وخرج بج الآدمي مس فرج البهيمة فلا نقض به إذ لا حرمة لها في وجوب ستره وتحريم النظر إليه. Right. Okay. ولا تعبد عليهما, and they don't have anything, there's no particular rituals to do with them. He says وبطن الكف وببطن كف غيره كرؤوس. Notice there's only one wow there. رؤوس الأصابع وما بينهما. So the fingertips and the area between the fingers. Right? That's not considered skin contact. واختص الحكم ببطنها وهو راح مع بطون الأصابع لأن التلذذ دائما يكون به, because that's to do with touching with lust. ولخبر ابن حبان في صحيحه إذا أفضى أحدكم بيده إلى فرجه وليس بينهما ستر ولا حجاب فليتوضأ عفوا. إذا الإفضاء باليد لغة المس ببطنها. What does it mean? أفضاء means to touch with the inside of your hand. فيتقيد به إطلاق المس في بقية الأخبار والمراد بفرج المرأة الناقص ملتقى شفرتيها على المنفذ, right? The place where the lips of the female private parts join, come together, not the area around it. وبالدبر, when you say behind, ملتقى منفذه, the area that comes together. وببطن الكف ما يستتر عند وضع إحدى الراحتين على الأخرى مع تحامل يسير. Push the fingers your hand together, right? The area of the inner side. So not the fingertips, not the area between the fingers, not the sides of the fingers, but whatever, when you push your hands together, whatever is close together, this is what means the inside of the hand. Okay, my apologies. If I start to slur in my voice or start to not make sense, please point it out. I'm kind of like still jet lagged, and so he says what or something. Oh, وتلاقي بشرتي ذكر وأنثى, right? The meeting, the touching of the skins of a male and a female. ولو خصيا, even if he's a eunuch. وممسوحا, someone who has no private parts to begin with, right? عمدا كان التلاقي أو سهوا بشهوة أو دونها بعضو سليم أو أشل لآية أو لامستم النساء, أي لامستم النساء كما قرئ به لا جمعتم لأنه خلاف الظاهر. So what's the قاعدة أصولية here? لا عدول عن الظاهر إلا بدليل, right? It is not true that the Quran always means what it says, but it is true that that's what we have to assume, right? That's the assumption. And so Imam Shafi'i mentions in the Kitab al-Umm, he says in his debates with different scholars, he mentions his debate with Ibn Abbas. Obviously, Ibn Abbas is 100 and something years before him. But the point is, theoretically, there's a debate between Imam Shafi'i and Ibn Abbas. And he says, Ibn Abbas, you said, Awla mastamun nisa means intercourse. There is no proof for that in terms of Arabic language. And then he quotes some lines of poetry. Imam Shafi quotes these, and he says, Awla mastamun nisa means touching. That's what it means. And so there's no place to interpret it in another way. Okay. So that's a qaida. Just like the default is a Sahih hadith is treated as true. The default is language is considered literal to proven otherwise. Right? This is a key concept. Okay. I'm gonna have to stop here. My apologies. Am I making sense, by the way? Am I speaking properly?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, alhamdulillah.
I'm just gonna drink a little bit more tea. I may have to stop. I don't know, because I feel like I'm almost like drunk, if that makes sense. Like I'm not even I don't even know what I just said. So alhamdulillah. Let me just see what caffeine can do. This is chai, so I need some proper desi du'as, right? Ya Allah, by the madad of your chai, of the chai, and your love of those who drink chai, right? Chai shai, right? It's what do you call it?
Yes.
Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillah. Either of you nurses or doctors? No?
No.
Yeah, my stepdad was a nurse. He said he used to take caffeine pills. Pretty hardcore. I don't know. I've never done that, but I can imagine. Okay, so anyway, basically, the default is the haqiqa, right? So awla masdam nisa, if you touch women, khalas. The default is it means touching and it means women. Okay. لأنه خلاف الظاهر. واللمس الجس باليد وبغيرها. Lumps means to touch with the hand and anything else. والجس باليد. So الجس is to touch. والجس with a sod is to touch specifically with the hand. وألحق غيرها بها وعليه الشافعي. فالمعنى في النقص به أنه مظنة التلذذ المثير للشهوة سواء في ذلك اللامس والملموس. So the same. كما أفهمه تعبير بالتلاقي لاشتراكهما في لذة اللمس كالمشتركين في لذة الجماع. والبشرة ظاهر الجلد وفي معناه اللحم كلحم الأسنان. Right? What do we call it?
gums.
Gums, thank you. Definitely drunk. وخرج بها الحائل ولو رقيقا. Right? So if there is, so we're not talking about lust. So touching with lust with a barrier, that doesn't break wudu. ولو رقيقا. Right? والشعر والسن والشعر والسن والظفر إذ لا يلتذ بهما. Right? Touching the hair or teeth or nails. Right? إلا يلتذ بهما. وبذ ها وبذكر وأنثى الذكران والأنثيان والخنثيان والخنثى والذكر والأنثى. Right? والعضو المبان. Right? Touching a part of the body that's been cut off. لانتفاء مظنة الشهوة. So what if there is تحقق الشهوة? Yeah, but there's no مظنة. Right? So somebody is homosexual. Right? And they feel lust by touching somebody of the same gender. Fine. That's النادر لا حكم له. We're not talking about that. Somebody finds an animal attractive or whatever it is. That's not what we're talking about. أي بكبر أي مع كبرهما بأن بلغا حد الشهوة وإن انتفت. Right? So they have reached the age that somebody of that age would normally be found attractive. وإن انتفت, even if there's no shahwa. Right? أي لأرباب الطباع السليمة. وأشار بذلك إلى أن الضابط ما ذكروه لا يتقيد بالسن. We don't mean a particular age. Right? So when he says لأرباب الطباع السليمة, we say we are cognizant of the fact that pedophiles exist. So don't come and say, oh my God, these people are pedophiles. I don't need you, modern Western world, to define what a pedophile is. We already know what a pedophile is. Right? So this is very important because if you explain this to a normal Western person, they're going to think you're a pedophile, with all due respect. In fact, if you listen to my classes, right, I think they're going to think I'm a freak because of the way that I talk about gender interactions and sexuality. I think that it's not a Western way of thinking about it at all, right? So, you're explaining this to the normal person and you're telling me that if you hold hands with an 8-year-old girl, you could be attracted to her. You say, yeah, Habibi, you're a pedophile, right? That's what they're going to tell you, right? That's what it is. Like if you touch your 8-year-old cousin, you're saying that somebody who has sound nature could find her attractive. So yeah, okay, that they say, oh, you're just a pedophile then, right? Exactly. So that's just the way that they look at things, which is not right. Right? It's not right. So what is pedophilia? Is there is such there's another thing called there's something called there is attraction to babies as well. There's another term. It has another word for it, being attracted to a baby specifically, right? But a pedophile is basically you are attracted to the childlike nature of something, as opposed to the woman features, right? So the way we look at it is, there was this film once where there was like I can't remember what it was. There was this guy, and he like mannequin turns into a human, right? So imagine, for example, you just like did a 3D print, live 3D print of a female, and so here we go. Here's a female, and so she's like 10 seconds old, but she's a has the form of an adult, right? So you would, so the age, it doesn't matter. We're not talking about the age. We're talking about the form, okay? And so a girl or a boy, there's a certain stage, right, where become, they certain have female features. They have features of a woman, or a boy has features of a man, right? And so, you'll notice the difference. There's a difference, right? Talk to your own, if you have kids, you see it like, oh, this is not really a little baby boy anymore, is he? It's very different. And so that is totally normal. And so what does that mean then? That means that in our paradigm, if there was a 50-year-old man who was attracted to like an 8-year-old girl, he wouldn't be considered a pedophile. So no, he's not considered a pedophile, right? It's not. That's just we don't accept your paradigms. Simple as that. So that's of somebody that is of sound nature. Yeah, there might be somebody of sound nature, but yeah, she has female features, and that's it. Um, and I've seen that even with women, like women who are not they didn't study Shafi fiqh. They were like, yeah, I don't feel comfortable hugging a grade 2 kid. Right? They feel different. He's a grade 2 kid. I feel different. What does that mean, different? It's like, yeah, you feel like you're hugging a man. It's different. Grade 2 is not a man. But there's certain features. This kid is now what grade 2 is, 7, right? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Around
7,
that,
8,
yeah.
right? It's like they're like, yeah, I don't really feel that comfortable. So this is just like, people talking. There's a difference. Would you ask a woman, would you mind changing in front of a baby? So yeah, I don't really care. Would you mind changing in front of a 5-year-old? Like, maybe, maybe not. Would you mind changing in front of an 8-year-old boy? Like, no, I wouldn't. I would mind. Like, I wouldn't feel comfortable, right? So there's a total difference, right? Which age, for example, would you mind breastfeeding a 2-year-old? Say, I don't mind that. 5-year-old, an 8-year-old, that's a bit weird, isn't it? What do you mean weird? Right? If you ask a woman, what do you mean by weird breastfeeding an 8-year-old boy? That means it's like, well, it's weird because it's like, that's almost like something you do that's like a sexual thing. That's kind of weird, isn't it? There's a certain difference where people are not, you know. So yes, there is such thing as pedophiles. No, I don't have to submit. I don't have to acknowledge your paradigms, right? And their paradigms are pretty stupid as well. If you look at it, um, definition of a pedophile, right? You know what? Somebody want to ask ChatGPT what like ages involved? What's ChatGPT's answer, right? Definition. I'm just asking Sheikh Google of a pedophile. So here I'm looking at Wikipedia, okay? And it says, although girls typically begin the process of puberty at the age of 10 or 11, boys, a psychiatric diagnosis criteria for extended the cutoff point for pubescence age of 13. People with disorder are often referred to as pedophiles. So, right? So basically, they're trying to say, where's the legal definition? Can anybody find something? What at what actual age? So I think it's basically the person has to be over a certain, the male usually it's going to be male over a certain age and she's under a certain age. And I label these things as a bit stupid because I was at a public school and you see these kind of relationships happening. It's not that stupid. So here it says, in which an adult or older adolescent experiences a sexual attraction to prepubescent children, right? So what if they reach puberty late, or what if they demonstrate uh, body of the of you know? I don't think it's not really prepubescent. I don't think that's the case. Did anybody find anything?
I found Cornell Law School, they have any person, they basically said um, any person who willfully and lewdly commits any lewd or lascivious acts upon or with the body or any part or member thereof of a child who is under the age of 14 years.
Yeah, there we go. Right. So under the age of 14. It's like, I mean, at public school, you're not going to find a 12-year-old girl that's going to dating an 18-year-old boy. That doesn't exist.
It does.
Like, didn't like Will Smith had like a song like that. He was like Will Smith had a song like that. I can't remember what it was. It was something like that. It was like, like he said I had, so he's like, he's in the car with this girl or whatever, and he gets caught by the police. Like, oh, I had no idea she was 14. He's like, what? You know? So it's like, this is reality. I mean, so again, like I don't think I don't think it's not a very genuine analysis of things. I don't think that's at all, right? Um, I don't think it's very fair, and it's all of these things are kind of pushed in a certain direction, right? And just on a side point as well, um, like things like violence in intimacy, people having fetishes about violence and intimacy, and also things like child pornography. One of the reasons that people would be attracted to child pornography is exactly what we've spoken about many times in Defemina class, is the lack of submission. So basically what will happen is there's supposed to be this chemistry where there is uh, there is a control factor or a submission factor between male and female. So what happens then is that's not the case because the woman is like, why would I submit to anybody? Right? I'm not going to submit to anybody. So what happens then is this man is trying to find what he's supposed to find in an adult female. He's going to find it in a child. Does that make sense? And so that's not halal, of course, and that's abusive. But now basically, he can't find that submissive, natural submissive thing. He can't find the yin and the yang, so he's going to find it somewhere else. Does that make sense? Similarly, the whole issue with like violence, right? So you're going to find that with like, why will people like have these fetishes about having like being violent in intimacy? Like there shouldn't be violence in intimacy. That's weird. But again, what they're trying to do is replace a natural hierarchy that should naturally be there, where a woman does feel controlled and likes that relationship in general, right? And he feels in control and he likes that fits well with how he is, and then that both complements the whole process. Now you take that out of the picture where you as a woman don't want to be controlled at all, ever. So now what's going to happen is you try and seek that in another way. Does that make sense? Just like you didn't feel happy, you didn't get an achieving thing in life. Let's do drugs. Like I need to get a hit in another way. You didn't get that the that you didn't get you don't have, does that make sense? So this whole thing about functioning marriages, being sexually active in a functioning marriage, actually being male and actually being female is really, really important. like really, really important. And so I'm not trying to say, oh yeah, it's okay, men who abuse children, that it's okay, it's not their fault. You know, our stuff for land. I'm never going to say that ever. What I'm saying is, you can see exactly what's happening. You take something out of the situation, people will do the opposite. Does that make sense? People will try and find the thing that they need in something else. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right? And it's like, and then you end up harming people and doing weird things. So, and then just look at the reality of the world, right? Look at the reality of the world. You know, do 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-old prostitutes exist? Yes, they do. Okay, why do they exist? Because there's a market for them. Okay, well, there we go. So, that's not there's a big difference between the two things. It's quite kind of obvious, right? Like a necrophiliac or necrophile, no, was it necrophile or something like that? Like someone who's attracted to dead people. Like I know what that means. That means you're attracted to somebody who's dead. Like the fact that the person is dead attracts you. The fact that they're an animal attracts you. The fact that they are the same sex, homosexual, they're the same, attracts that person. It's obvious what we mean, right? Pedophile, lover of children, right? But this person's not a child. And then this goes to the whole definition of teenager, right? So what do I call a teenager? We call a teenager is, 7, 8, 9. That's a teenager, not somebody in their teens, because someone in their teens is an adult usually, right? And so it all goes back to the same social construct of society. So you go to medieval Europe and be like, yeah, they didn't have a concept of teens either in medieval Europe, and they didn't have this issue either. Here's a 40-year-old man marrying a 12-year-old woman. It's like totally fine. There's not an issue, right? Islamically, is that a good thing? It's not a good thing. I'm not talking about that, but I'm just talking about the fact that here's a 40-year-old man who's attracted to a 12-year-old girl. Like, yeah, that's just normal nature. That's not weird. That person's not a pedophile, right? And therefore he shouldn't be around, right? And uh, you know, I remember seeing married men act like that. People who are otherwise respected, like, yeah, he's like clearly flirting with a kind of a seventh grader. I've seen that, and vice versa, right? Happens. So it's quite normal for a seventh grader to have a crush on their teacher. Why not? Or seventh grader, fifth grader, third grader, right? She has a crush on her teacher. Why not? It's quite normal. So that's not because she's like mental. She has kind of mental disorder. No, she's attracted to. She sees certain masculine things in her teacher who is 25 years older than her, or 35 years older than her. And that's just nature of things, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. Khair. Can you just give me 2 minutes, please? So the upshot is we don't need you to tell us what this is. We already know. We're already cognizant of homosexuality, pedophilia, all these things. And we don't mean that. We mean normal human beings. You don't understand who normal human beings are, or you're denying of that. You're in denial of that. Just give me 2 minutes, please. Da, 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 da. بخلاف التلاقي مع الصغر الذي لا شهوة معه فلا ينقض لانتفاء مظنتها وذكر كبر ذكر من زيادته لا تلاقي بشرتي ذكر وأنثى محرم له بنسب أو رضاع أو مصاهرة, right? فلا نقطع بذلك. So is it permissible to touch and look at your milk sister that you're attracted to?
Uh, is it permissible?
Yeah. So you just found
No.
out, like just now, that this teenage girl or girl that's your same age she's apparently actually your milk sister, but you don't feel like she's your milk sister. So when you look at her, you look at her as any other woman. So can you touch her?
No.
Can you look at her?
No.
Does it break a wudu if you touch her?
No.
Right? So these are two different things, right? خير. And then it says محرم من نسب. Okay, مصاهرة. Great. So now we're going to go back to ghusl. Where did we get to? Nope, that's not the right book. Diwan of Taraf ibn al-Abd is not what we're reading right now. Um, yeah. Okay, الغسل بسم الله الاغتسال نوعان فرض وسنة بسم الله عمار وجواد.
Can read this time, John.
Go ahead, بسم الله. Go ahead, جواد.
بسم الله. الاغتسال نوعان فرض وسنة. فالفرض عشرة أشياء.
Mhm,
5 منها على الرجال والنساء، و5 منها على النساء دون الرجال.
mhm,
فأما التي على الرجال والنساء فالإنزال والتقاء الختانين،
mhm.
ونجاسة
الختانين.
الختانين،
Mhm,
ونجاسة جميع البدن،
mhm.
والنجاسة.
Yeah, so what he's saying is basically, imagine if you had urine all over your whole body. So would you have to wash your whole body? So yeah, okay, that's ghusl, right? Like, okay, but that's very different, right? That's he's counting that as ghusl. ونجاسة بعض البدن إذا أشكل بعضها, right? So I know that I have urine somewhat on my body. I don't know where it is then. So say, could it be literally any part of your body? So yeah, like anywhere at all. So yeah, okay. In which case you're obliged to wash your whole body, right? Because اليقين لا يزول بالشك, right? Right. إذا أشكل إذا أشكل موضعها وغسل الميت وأما التي على النساء دون الرجال. Go ahead.
فالاغتسال من الحيض والنفاس والولادة والإسقاط وخروج مني الرجل من قولها.
Mm-hmm. As it mentions here, it says ثم so it says إذا كان خروجه قبل غسلها وجب عليها الغسل قطعا. أما إذا اغتسلت من جماع ثم خرج منها مني الرجل لازمها الغسل على مذهب بشرطين. الأول أن تكون ذات شهوة, right? That she's somebody who could have who could have an orgasm. الثاني أن تقضي شهوتها بذلك الجماع. فإن فقد أحد الشرطين لم يجب الغسل. Right? So she didn't have an orgasm while having intercourse, in which case we're going to say it's his money. Otherwise, we're going to say it's her money came out with it. Okay, so if those two conditions are there, then she's going to have to make a ghusl. وأما الاغتسال المسنون.
أم، وأما الاغتسال المسنون ف22 نوعا. الاغتسال للجمعة والاستسقاء والخسوف والكسوف والعيدين، الفطر والأضحى، والكافر إذا أسلم، والمجنون إذا أفاق، وعن غسل الميت في قول، والإحرام ودخول الحرم، آه، والوقوف بجمع،
Mhm,
والوقوف بعرفة، وفي 3 أيام منى قبل الرمي،
mhm,
ولدخول مكة، ولطواف الزيارة،
mhm,
آم، وللحجامة، ولدخول الحمام، والاستحداد، وللإغماء، وكل حال تغير فيها البدن.
mhm. Right, so استحداد, the issue is that you removed You removed something. So imagine you made ghusl, okay? And then you plucked out a hair or you cut a hair. Now there's a face, there's a face of the surface of your body, right? That face of that what's it called? That plane of your hair that you just now exposed was not washed. So because there's ikhtilaf on that issue, we say it's recommended that if after shaving, the cutting hair, that you make ghusl, right? Al-Ighma, same as Junoon, right? And every single scenario where your body changes, right? So there mentions there five. نقل النووي عن المصنف في المجموع ونص عليه الشافعي في الأم والله أعلم.
So does this mean that it's sunnah to do ghusl every time you enter the bathroom?
Basically, yeah. So I don't know if that's relied upon really, but it seems like it. And it would be so it does recommend it's making like anytime there's a gathering. So I'm not sure if it's just specifically like so basically if you stink, you know, you know. So that would it makes sense. Just like it's sunnah to do siwak when you need to do for practical reasons. You actually need to wash your teeth, right? Sunnah to do that. Similar for your body, right? To basically have a shower. So the difference is basically it changes. You're changing it from doing a practical wash of your body with the intention of being clean in general to now a ritual cleaning. Yeah, does that make sense? So now it's a ritual, right? And then what would change then in if you were then you say for example why are you showering in Ramadan? So I'm showering in Ramadan to fulfill the sunnah of making a ghusl where I'm going to be in a situation where I'm going to be around other people. So I'm going to go work, for example. So now if you did that with that intention, you're doing a ritual and that's recommended. Because recommended, if water went in your ear or you accidentally swallowed the water, it'd be overlooked. As opposed to if you weren't doing the ritual, then it wouldn't be overlooked. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. This is والاغتسال يشتمل على ستة أشياء. Go ahead. You read?
فرض ونفل وسنة وأدب وكراهية وشرط.
Mm-hmm.
فأما الفرض فثلاثة أشياء: النية والتعميم في كل البدن والتتابع في أحد القولين.
Right. i.e. the qadim, right? Because tatabu' is the qawl so here mentions it as هو الأصح لا تجب. Right. والله أعلم. So here is mentioning it as if it was qawl if it was wajhan. Because it says والأصح كذا. والله أعلم. But as far as it should be a qawl jadid it should be he says والأصح كذا. So if it says a qawlan, then he says والأظهر كذا, right? If there's two qawls, then it should be والأظهر كذا or المشهور كذا. Right. Anyway, but as far as I know, it's jadid and qadim. So the same discussion in wudu is then it does have to be continuity or not. Allah A'lam, it should be the same discussion. Anyhow, والتتابع meaning موالاة في أحد القولين. وأما النفل فشيء واحد وهو الاغتسال مرتين as you mentioned before, right? Go ahead. وأما السنة
فثمانية أشياء: التسمية وغسل اليدين قبل إدخالهما الإناء ثلاثا، وأن يغسل ما به من الأذى ثم يتوضأ وضوءه للصلاة.
So wudu'ahu, this is maf'ul mutlaq, as he would for the prayer, right? That's what it means. That you make wudu as you would for the prayer. يتوضأ وضوء salah, right? Like يمشي مشي زيد. You should walk as Zayd walks, or مشية زيد, same kind of thing. ثم يحثي, to pour.
ثم يحثي على رأسه ثلاث حثيات من ماء، وأن يخلل شعر رأسه ولحيته، وأن يبدأ بشقه الأيمن، وأن يمر يديه على جميع بدنه وهو الدلك، ويقول في آخره: أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله.
So notice
وأما
he has this
الأدب
taqdeem, he has this word adab, right? So we're not going to, متأخرين are not going to make that distinction between nafal. So he mentioned nafal, which is extra. Like anything that's in excess of the fard is called nafal. Right? We don't have that term. Right? Is this useful? I think it's pretty useful. The difference between adab and sunnah, I think it's quite a useful distinction. Wallahu a'lam. Okay, بسم الله والأدب فالثمانية أشياء.
أن يستقبل القبلة وأن يقعد في
Good. So
مكان لا يرجع.
if you're not covered at all, should you face the qibla? No, right? Because for the Hanafis, it's going to be haram to do that. Right? So we shouldn't do that. خروج من الخلاف معتبر, right? So in which case, ideally you should be covered. But if you're facing, if you are not covered, then you should be perpendicular to the qibla. Okay, go ahead, Bismillah.
وأن يقعد في مكان لا يرجع الماء عليه ولا يترشش.
Mhm,
وأن يجعل الإناء عن يساره وإن كان واسعا فعن يمينه
mhm,
ولا يستعين بغيره إلا عن حاجة.
mhm. So
فإن
an means because of, right? So an, min, li, ba, they all have meaning of sababiyya, right? إلا بسبب حاجة, right? من أجل حاجة. Mhm,
فإن استعان جعله عن يمينه ويبدأ بأعلى بدنه وأن يكون في سترة.
mhm. Should be covered. Okay, وأما الكراهية فشيئان.
الإسراف في الماء ولو كان على شاطئ البحر
Mhm,
والزيادة على 3.
mhm. وأما الشرط.
وأما الشرط فشيء واحد وهو أن يكون الماء مطلقا.
Mhm. Then he says, باب ما يمنع الجنوب منه. Inshallah, we'll continue. Inshallah, next week. Inshallah, we're having a class next. Let's just double check. Will we have a class next week? 1 second.